I worked with a bunch of moms and I hated them. And it wasn't because of who they were. I hated them because since I wasn't a mom, at 5 o'clock, when they had to leave to go to daycare and
Oh,
pick up their kids, guess who got stuck with the work? Me.
the world is obsessed with fast track success. It's easy to think that people become successful overnight. But let's face it, more often than not, what we see on social media is total BS. I'm here to look past the perception of perfect success and focus on life's detours, perceived mistakes, and even wrong choices, and understand the real road traveled up the career ladder. After all, we're all effing up. Mary Hendricks is a stay-at-home mom and social media influencer. You may have seen her on Instagram as a very Mary life. Mary always knew she wanted to be a mom, and likely in-home caring for them as seen by the excellent example her mother provided. Mary worked hard to create a career she was passionate about. She spent time in pharmaceutical marketing, the startup world. She refurbished and sold furniture, and went on to become a personal trainer. When Mary became a mom, the responsibility of having a career as a personal trainer, as well as caring for children, wasn't something in which she found balance. And thus, she chose the thing that gave her the ultimate career satisfaction, being a full-time stay-at-home mom. After her second child was born in 2020, Mary struggled with postpartum depression. Along with COVID, it was beyond overwhelming. Mary turned to Instagram to live her life out loud and find kinship in a community she knew would be supportive and likely had experienced similar circumstances. Mary keeps things real in hopes of leaving others highly entertained and extremely inspired, with a motto to help others see they are not alone.
If you are an Instagram or TikTok, truth be told, I'm not a TikToker, but I know you're on TikTok. All the kids are there. She caught my eye because she's not afraid of people judging her for who she truly is, sharing your journey of motherhood and the tripping hazards, the joys, all the things. And you're not afraid to just say, today was a really tough day. I'm excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you. I'm excited. I recently started a podcast, but I've been doing it so much on your end that it's,
Weird.
yeah, it's new to be switched in the other position.
Yeah.
I like it.
To get started, why don't you talk to me about what your childhood looked like in terms of future for career? Did you think at all, maybe not childhood, but let's call it like teens? Did you think about what you might want to do? Did you get urging from elders around you?
I'm from New Jersey. I grew up, I have my mom, my dad, they're still married. I have my brother, my sisters, and then I grew up, my mom was a stay-at-home parent.
Mm.
And then my dad worked in private business areas and he's fairly well at that his entire life. I think for me growing up, there was never anything that I aspired to do. I definitely wanted to be a mom. I think it was because my mom was home. I really wanted to be home. I loved that my mom was
Mm.
home because a lot of the time I was born in 1990, so I had four friends on the block. I grew up on a really great block, and all of their parents were also, their moms were also stay at home moms. So it was like what I saw, and it was
Yeah.
more common, I feel like back then, to have a stay at home parent. It wasn't, as we've gotten through the years, I feel like becoming a stay at home mom and being a stay at home dad or whatever is just a rarity these days. It's not as easy, and economy is just I don't know how
Yeah.
anyone does it sometimes, but I always wanted to do that. But other things that were put in my head was like, I knew the goal for me with my parents were college. They definitely wanted me to go to college and do well at school and wanted me to get a job. That was never anything like where my mom was like, oh, no, you're going to become a stay at home mom. It was never the plan. It was just you go to job and you find a job for yourself. But I can tell you right now, when I went to college. I went to Purdue University and I went in, I originally wanted to be a nurse and that didn't work out. But then I went in as an English major because I had seen TV shows where these people worked in publishing offices and it looked all glitzy and glamorous.
Mm.
And I thought that's what I would land into. And that
What
didn't
what
happen.
happened?
What happened? Did not happen.
Did you end up changing your major in college, or you graduated with an English degree? And
Yeah, I graduated with an English degree. My senior year, I had an internship with a publishing company, a little company in our town that I think did newspapers or something in the college town that I was at, Indiana. So it was like a little Indiana newspaper. And it was awful. It was awful. And then I graduated. And thankfully, my parents were really great about this, where at the time I graduated in 2012, my parents had recently, a year before, bought a beach house in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. And I graduated and I came home and all my friends had jobs right out of the gate. Like they graduated with a job lined up and I didn't. And I got home and I started to panic. And my parents were just like, come up to the vineyard and work in a restaurant. And I was like, well, isn't that going to affect me? Won't that show on my resume that I took and didn't get a job? And my dad, who was a very successful businessman at this point, said, he was like, I'm sorry. He was like, I'm going to tell you this from a bit of being on the other end of the desk, or if someone were to come and interview with me and say, I decided to take the last summer I have as a recent college graduate to work in a restaurant on Martha's Vineyard, I would be like, good for you.
yeah,
Before you enter the crazy working world.
Mm.
So I did and did that for a summer and came home and I got a job in pharmaceutical marketing and absolutely hated my life.
Okay, hold on. Let's rewind really quick. The internship. Why was the internship so awful?
Awful. It was awful. It wasn't glitzy. It wasn't glamorous like I thought. It was an internship. So who's to say? I think I realized too, because it was more English based and it was like more like correcting grammar and things like that. I realized like I'm good at that. I'm not even that good at it. I'm good at, I can articulate things very well if I sit with it for a little bit, but I suck at grammar. I've always sucked at grammar of going through and knowing when to place a colon and a semicolon and a comma. I don't know that stuff as well. So it was just like stuff like that where I was like, I don't think this is the right fit for me. So I think that's why the internship sucked, because I was like, this isn't what I need at this point. And then I went to pharmaceutical marketing because it was a job that was available and it was project management, which anyone with any major at this point can get into and do. And it was just so demanding and awful. But I think the thing that I hated a lot with that, and I can tell you, is I met my husband, we started dating and I was working at this place, but I just looked and I think I knew that we were going to end up together at the time and whatever, but I just kept picturing, I was like, I can't imagine doing this the rest of my life. And then also I worked with a bunch of moms and I hated them. And it wasn't because of who they were. I hated them because since I wasn't a mom, at 5 o'clock when they had to leave to go to daycare and pick up their kids, guess who got stuck with the work? Me. And I liked them. I respected them. I knew what they were doing it for, but I never saw that side of things. And then I think I hated it because I was like, I don't want to be that. I didn't want that for myself. And I didn't want to do that to others. And I think it's really unfair. Honestly, I think to be a working mom it is very unfair how some moms are treated. And I think I saw that and it wasn't something I wanted. I wanted flexibility. And I wanted freedom.
Do you think you're not a working mom?
Well, no, I am now, but I do it in my way.
I
am now.
I'm curious though, if we could dissect that question. When I ask the question, are you a working mom? What signals, yes, I am a working mom? Is it?
So, that's actually interesting. So I think when we think working mom, and that's actually something that we should that should get broken down more. I think mom that works in an office
is what you think of as a working mom.
Because but it's not.
Because that's what we're used to. That's how we're wired. Yeah. But I'd argue if you're a mom at home, taking care of the kids, plus, are you not working?
Oh no, I totally am. And that's the bullshit of it, isn't it?
I know. That's the bullshit of it.
Yeah, no, and that's something I always talk about too, because I'm like, it's crap. At the beginning, when I became a stay-at-home mom, I tried returning to work. So so this is like the whole slew of everything. I worked in pharmaceutical marketing. I quit. I went to a startup company. The startup was run by this weirdo. I quit that. Or no, I got laid off technically or fired. And I left that. I went in, I was refinishing furniture. I have a weird background, but I was refinishing furniture and making side money because I was engaged and Kevin and I were about to get married. But in the time being, I was like, I'm going to refinish and refurbish furniture as a small business. I was making money. It was fine. Didn't like that anymore. I went into personal training
Do you have to go to school for that?
Certification. I studied my ass off.
Yeah.
So I did that, got certified, got a good job, but it's hard being a personal trainer. You have to really bust your ass. And I found a position where I really liked it because it wasn't like icky salesy stuff for any of that. I just was there and they put clients with me. And then I had Cassidy, and I tried returning back to a gym in the town that we had recently moved to. And I worked there for a little bit. And the moment I got the job there, I knew the moment they called me saying, we'd like to offer you that position, I knew I was going to be pregnant with my second. I came home and I told my husband, I said, I guarantee you I am pregnant. And he was like, how do you know? And I was like, just give it 2 more weeks and we will find out. And I did. Sure enough, I was pregnant because that's just how life would handle it. And so I tried working through that pregnancy. It was awful because I had Cassidy, who I would bring to the gym daycare. She would get sick to no end. So I would constantly have to call out because of fevers and things like that. I was also pregnant. So no one wanted me to be their personal trainer because they were scared of me. And I didn't look like a personal trainer. It was awful. My boss at the time called me and he's like, hey, you've been out 11 times in the last 3 months. And he wasn't trying to be mean, but it wasn't because of me just calling out. It was because Cassie had been so sick. I just called my husband afterwards and I said, I'm quitting. I'm just going to go and I'm going to quit. Because I said, I can't. It sucked because it was something I wanted to do so well at. And that was my first experience of working outside the home as a mom and seeing that I couldn't give 100% to it anymore because I had something more important to me, which was my family. And it sucked. It was a very sucky feeling.
Yeah.
So I just said no. And
interesting that you frame it that way. So both are equally important to you. You have something that you've really worked hard toward, yet there's something more superior. So you're giving it up, not because something is necessarily inferior, but something just tops the cake. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so your oldest, Cassidy, how old was she when you finally were like, nope, can't do it?
I think I was only 16 or 17 weeks pregnant with my second. So I don't even know, 15 months old. Yeah. So it was hard.
What was that transition like, going then to be fully at home caring for the kids and whatnot versus keeping up your business of personal training?
At first it was fine because I was pregnant and excited for the newness and it was flexible. And I think it was exciting at first where I had that time and I had something to look forward to because I knew I was having my second and I could get the nursery ready and I had things that I could do and focus on. So I wasn't really at the time freaked out about it. It was when my second was born and the pandemic hit. 4 months after he was born, the pandemic hit and I freaked out a little bit. The hard part for me not working was the financial portion of it. I hated the finances, always stressed me out. And my husband's a police officer. We do okay where we're not stressed out constantly, but we do have to watch and we do have to budget. And I wasn't used to having to do that. I fell in that trap a little bit of feeling guilty spending money because it was him earning the paycheck and not
That's what
me.
I was going to ask you, if you struggle at all with it's his versus mine, or rather versus ours.
Yeah, I did it first. It's gotten better. I'll always be weirdo about finances. I just have always been particularly my husband has totally different spending habits than I do. So it's always been level area of contention that we've had to work through. But I think that was we definitely had to figure a lot of that out up until the point of me developing Instagram, where this has become my job. Essentially, it took me time to fall into where I'm at now, but
or rather your second job.
My second job. Yeah.
We need to change the way we think, right? Because again, you're working full-time as a parent in the home, watching your children, shuttling them, doing all the things, making meals, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And now started a business as well. That's the Instagram and all the things that you do. You're doing a podcast. I'm sure there are many other things that you could speak about. That's in addition. So you're literally hustling 2 jobs right now.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you feel is the hardest part about being a a caregiver in the home full time?
Mm. Well, you're coming at me with that question right after getting over a stomach bug. And that's like that's a great reminder of all you do. The moment you're sick, you realize exactly how much load you carry. And even if people can't see it, being the default, I think that's really hard. I'm the default for everyone in this household, the little people. That's hard. It's been constructed that way because I'm with them 95% of the time. So I'm always number one. My husband's really good about stepping up and helping me with certain things that I need. Cause I've said this before on Instagram where I view that mindset of a job, even though like my words don't come out, but I do. I view it as a job where I wake up in the morning and I get my shoes on my feet and I get myself dressed and I put makeup on because I want to show up no different than it would be if I were working outside the home. I show up here. It's something I've had to do because of not being home. It just feels like Groundhog's Day every single day where we don't break it up. And if I didn't change out of my clothes, if I didn't do any of those things, it would get very easy to slip into that black hole of nothing, if that makes sense. So I try to like make a purpose of every single day and try to make this seem like it's my job. So I have pride in it. It's just like the other default stuff where it's like, I'm always number one. I'm number one. If I were in a full body cast set ablaze, my kids would still come to me and ask me for a juice box. That's how it is. And that is difficult sometimes where you're like, I can't, there's no off button. There's no pause. And even if I were to take a break, I would still be thinking about them. I would still be thinking about them forever.
You're Jack and they're Rose floating on the wood off the Titanic. You're like, no problem. I'm drowning here. Good luck.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just hang on real quick. That's hard. And then all that. But then I think on top, what I think a big portion of this podcast and talking about that is people don't take it serious either. So I think that's the hard part too, is I'm going through all of these motions and feeling all of these things and waking up some days just like wondering who the hell I am and wondering what the heck I'm going to do. And then a day closes and I'm like, what the hell did I do? Because it just felt like another day and feeling like a waste. And if you want to talk about that stuff, no one's, well, you're home. You're home. What's the big deal? I'm like, okay, okay, never mind.
Speaking of judgy people, when do you feel like that gets under your skin the most?
Yeah, thankfully it's never been directly said to my face by anyone personally. I don't think. My mother-in-law will sometimes make remarks, but she doesn't make anything about that. She'll kind of like, I would have to think about what she says, but I know she does because she's a gem. She won't listen to this, thank God. But she will say stuff. It's mostly online. I think it's online because that's where I'm at, and that's where I hear a lot of feedback where people are just like, stop complaining, or when people say that it must be nice to be rich and be able to stay home, when they don't realize I left the extra job I had of being a personal trainer. And that was just because I couldn't stand feeling like I wasn't leveling up. But also at the time, I wasn't bringing in anything substantial, if anything. And I was lucky where I had my mom coming over to watch. If I didn't have the daycare situation, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's financially beneficial for me to stay home at this point. I wouldn't have ever made anything to amount to me being able to have that equity there. And I think that's what drives me nuts sometimes, where people automatically judge your financial situation from staying at home, or
they're clearly not thinking about the cost of 3 kids in daycare. That's how people
don't think about that a lot. Like I've had people say that. I made a TikTok about it once. I'm in New Jersey. The median cost for a daycare in New Jersey for, I want to say like infant, is $1,700 a month. That's just one. Or more. I think that's more, or more. But then I have 3 kids. So there's zero way we could have ever made that happen. And like, I tell people that all the time. I'm very transparent. Like, we live out in the sticks in New Jersey. New Jersey is expensive. We had to move far in order to by Pennsylvania in the wilderness, so we could afford the house big enough to have our kids. And I shop at Aldi's. Like, I do all these things. I rarely buy things for myself. Like, I do all of these things. And sometimes people look and they're like, oh, it must be nice to do that. I'm like, well, no, but we made the choice because we wanted to have kids, but this is how we're going to have these kids. And that's what I'm doing. And I think that deserves as much respect as someone that decides to work outside the home. I was planning on making a video saying like to the trolls, like directly to them, and 3 things to consider. before you make a nasty comment. Because I was thinking about it yesterday with the whole Twitch, that guy from that committed suicide. I was thinking about this because I'm like, people are so shocked that he did it. And it is shocking because he had everything. People are like looking at him and saying like he had it all. He had money, he had social media fame and things like that. And I'm like, no one knows the final moments of his life. But who is to say he didn't get on his phone and read something nasty? And it could have been just one thing that he read that could have been that final nail. Like, I always think about that stuff where I'm like, just be kind. Like, it's social media. It's a screen. It doesn't excuse you for being nice. Like, and if you don't like it, then just keep moving because all
But they
you
like that. They
is,
like that they have something to hide behind. Like, oh, I can say whatever the hell I want because I'm never going to get talked to. You know, no one's going to chase me
a
down.
lot of these people, it's an addiction. They're sick.
Let's set a very merry life aside for a second and just think purely about raising, shaping the kids and caring for them day to day. How do you think about that job and how that job is shaping you, or you want it to shape you for your future? And maybe that bleeds into a very merry life. I know this is hard to shape one without the other.
Yeah.
But do you ever think about being that caregiver and how it can shape your future and goals that you might have in mind for yourself?
Yeah, I think my kids are a huge inspiration just for everything that, I mean, very merry life aside, because that is like a big platform that I'm trying to grow and hopefully make more of a business. But everything I do for my kids is hopefully teaching them so that for me, I really want my kids to see an honest parenthood. I hope they see me as their mom, but I hope they see me as a human and that they see that I'm not going to get this perfect. And I hope they don't put me on some pedestal and thinking that no one can do what mom, like, no, that they can do exactly what I can. And I hope by them kindness and teaching them lessons and also teaching them like all the lessons that come with humanity, like mistakes, like the moments where I shared about mom rage once, like things about that, like apologizing. Like I try and teach them all that stuff because I really want for them and for me, like I learn how to do this stuff and I learn what lessons I want. That way, hopefully I can grow this into, I don't know, it's hard to say what I want this into be a business, but I really aspire to just create a place where the world is easier for being a parent come the time our kids become parents. I want the village to be there because it's gone. We don't have a village. The village is just disappearing and it's disappearing by the day. And I hope that we can just stop it right now and backtrack and get to a place where it's really easy to find it because we don't have it. That's what's happening. So that's what I'm trying to teach.
With the very merry life, how hard is it to keep that going and to feel like you're contributing in a substantial way while you have this other job of caring for the kids?
I think it's honestly just showing up. I think thankfully I've created a space where I don't have to try and think about what I'm portraying. I don't try and craft my day or craft my content over any certain thing. At one point I did, because that's what Instagram was, where you really had to have a timeline as to what's going on. But if there's a day like yesterday, I showed up on my stories once. I didn't post anything because I was sick. And for me, I try to make this almost a complete reflection of my life where I've made that where it doesn't feel as forced. So I feel like if I have to step back and take care of the kids, then I can do that. And I don't feel any stress or anything. And I think it's gotten to a place where nothing's expected from me, because sometimes what happens, I think, on Instagram is as you grow an account, your followers you become theirs, essentially. You belong to your followers, essentially. That's what gets hard on Instagram and these social media platforms when you start growing. And I have never allowed that. And I think my followers have gotten to know that, where it's like, they know I'm a mom and they know I'm not just a mom that's trying to be a spectacle. I'm just a mom over here sharing the shit and the laughs and everything like that, where I don't feel as responsible for that job as I do. I feel like I can do them very easily.
When you said you belong to the followers, by that do you mean like they start demanding what you do and they ask of you and you're saying, no, thank you, I'm going to do it.
You become their entertainment. It's no different than anything else. You become their source of inspiration. You become someone that they get so used to checking every single day and getting through their stories. And there are times where I won't post sometimes in the morning and I'll have people message me and be like, hey, what's going on? And I don't think they're doing it, they realize, but I think it's how social media works. Like we are constantly fed information. And at the end of the day, the followers are the people that are making me successful. So without them, my page is nothing essentially. So that's like where the toss up is at. But I think it's gotten to a point where I feel at one point I would have felt stressed out. Like I remember feeling stressed about taking a week off to go on vacation and being like, oh, I can't do that. But now I'm like, yeah, I can.
Do you think that has to do with how many followers you have now and the success you've seen? Or is that just because it's a mentality thing?
I think it's a mentality thing. Because at the end of the day, Instagram is weird and you do have to keep the algorithm up and things like that. You can think of it from a strategic portion, but I think it's a mentality thing where social media is forced. It's getting better. I think it's getting more authentic. I think people are getting braver about showing their authentic self and getting on without filters and things like that. I think that's getting easier, but it's still there. And I think it's just a mindset of knowing, maybe not knowing who you are, but being okay with figuring it out while people are watching. I think that's what it is. And that's what I've come to is my life is chaos and
whose isn't?
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful chaos, but I'm not going to try and make it seem like it's not. I'm just going to share everything. And some people might not agree and some people might not. I want to feel familiar. That's all I want is just feel familiar. I don't need you to see yourself in me.
Right.
I want you to feel like I live next door to you. If that makes sense.
You set boundaries for what you share. And if you do, you get beat up for it by your followers?
I don't ever cover politics or medical. Usually I've gotten praise because of it, but when the whole Roe versus Wade thing happened, I got shit for it because people were expecting me to come out saying, you're a woman, you need to be coming out. And I was like, well, how do you know what my opinion would be? So just because I'm a woman, like, what if I'm a woman and I don't agree with you? Then it wouldn't have mattered. So I just stayed out of it. I stay out of all that shit. I have feelings, like people know. And I always say that. I'm like, of course I have opinions, but when I meet someone, I don't automatically say, shake your hand and be like, hey,
how do you feel about abortion?
Yeah, how do you feel about abortion? Or hey, who'd you vote for? I care about the quality of your character and like who you are and how you treat me. And if you're a dick, you're a dick. If you voted for someone who apparently is the overwhelming popular vote and you're an asshole, you're still an asshole. So that's just how I am. But I don't really talk about that stuff. I have boundaries with medical stuff. I try not to share too much about my kids' stuff just because they're my kids. I try to keep them protected a little bit.
What do you beat yourself up about both on the caregiver mom side and on the very merry life side? Are they the same? Are they different?
No, I can tell you on the caregiver side, sometimes I get really frustrated at myself when I said this to my husband, I'm trying to think of how I worded it to him. I got frustrated the other day because there are things that I do have to do where I have two jobs. So it's trying to balance out the job. And sometimes I get frustrated myself for my second job being the very merry life, interrupting that's the mom job where like I have a moment of like where I forget what I was doing. I was doing something. I think it was a collaboration. I was posting it up. You already have it pre-recorded. You have it ready to go, but you have to get it up. And I'm posting and you have to go make sure that all the text is correct and everything. And it's just like something I can take 5 minutes and just sit and do. And I had both kids running up to me asking me for snacks and they were going nuts. And I snapped at them and I was like, "Bye, can you leave me alone for 5 seconds?" I was like, "I'm just doing this." And then I felt really bad about it afterwards because I was like, this isn't what I wanted. That's not what I wanted this to be. And that's moments where I'm like, okay, I need to figure out a better like time management per se. But it's definitely, that's the hard part of that is where I like get guilt myself on the mom front. And then I get frustrated on the very merry front because I really want that to take off, but I don't have the time. For sometimes for some things that I really want to do and invest my time in because I don't have the time. So it's like it's a teeter.
You mentioned the village earlier. Are you able to get help at all? Are you able to get time for yourself?
Yeah, I have my mom. She lives about 45 minutes away. It's not all the time that I can get help from her, but I can. It's gotten harder. And I don't think I realized it with 3 kids. She doesn't feel as comfortable babysitting 3 kids. So that has thrown a little wrench into things. My sister doesn't live around. My mother-in-law isn't. She's older, so she wouldn't be comfortable watching the kids. So that's hard. I did try finding a babysitter and that didn't work out. She's awful. She's
Oh
awful.
God.
But I've been trying. I've been trying so hard to do that. That's where it gets tricky. And I think it's also tricky too, because it's a control thing. It's a control thing of letting go of certain things. I did hire a virtual assistant on the very merry end, but even then, I know I'm not utilizing her to the full extent because it's a control thing. And even like with a babysitter, I know I probably am holding back because it's a control thing at the end of the day. It's like
Awareness is the first step.
I know, right? You just got to keep doing it. This year was probably my happiest postpartum period. I want to say like my second baby, I really hit the low point of being a stay-at-home parent and feeling isolated. And I think that was probably one of the biggest struggles of just so much doubt and so much imposter syndrome where you don't think you're even worthy of any of this stuff. And just knowing that you're still someone, even though your kids take over. At the end of the day, your babies take over, and it takes some time and like pulling. You literally have to force yourself out of it. And it takes time and it takes work. And I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about with motherhood. It rocks your world. It's going to be beautiful. It's just going to be really messy at first.
Does the imposter syndrome show up for you on both sides as well, as a parent, caregiver, and a very merry life?
Oh yeah. Imposter syndrome definitely on the very merry life, where you're just don't think you are up to par, or ever you're not it or whatever it is. And then imposter syndrome with parenting, it's just you not so much not this past year. I don't think so. I want to say probably the second time and the first time, because you prep yourself. Everyone reads these perfect parenting books and they read about all these, what babies should do and what parents should do. And then when you have a baby that is a completely solo human being that has never lived on this planet before, you've never mothered before, you question everything that you're doing. And you're like, what am I doing wrong? And who am I? And who put me in charge? You go through these things because we've been prepped so much to, again, everything's put on a pedestal. I feel like motherhood is put on such an untouchable pedestal. And then we read all these how-tos and things like that, where it's like, your baby should be doing this. Well, what happens if your baby doesn't? Because your baby's not your baby's its own person.
Cutter. Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing. It's gotten better because I think the more kids you have, you don't have time to worry about it. You see how each kid is so different, where you realize, oh, it's definitely not cookie cutter.
If you could go back and speak to your young 20-something-year-old self, what advice would you share?
Oh God, stop doubting yourself. That's all I did. That's all I would ever do, was just doubt myself. And I would compare. Stop doubting and comparing to everyone else next to you, because that's all I did. And I think I lived in that. For everything I did was then marked by what someone else was doing. And I was so afraid to just take a leap. And I was so afraid to do something outside the box. And I think it finally got easier, where now I'm doing this and whatever, but I wish I could have done that earlier, because I would have just freed me from so much.
Was the doubt more just you yourself, or were you afraid, what are my friends and my family going to think of me?
Yeah, I think it was probably that, friends and family, especially because my parents were cookie cutter. Like, my parents were pretty cookie cutter. They were a successful private businessman and a stay-at-home mom, but my mom also was pretty good in finances before she became a stay-at-home mom. They were very like strategic people, and they were cookie cutter. So it was like, you just thought that was the route that it should be, where you worked in a job for so many years and you look and you're like, oh, I didn't have to go to college and do what I majored in. And that was like a breakout period of that.
I'm going to jump into rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
How do you define success?
Happiness.
What was your dream job as a child?
I love how many different answers pop into my head. I can go through a vet, a mom, a writer, an author, a child book writer, a nurse. I think I want to be a plastic surgeon for a little bit of time.
What's your path not taken?
I was really close to being a nurse. I wanted to help people, so I kind of done it a different way.
I've asked other guests remote or in-person work. This isn't quite exactly aligned to you. However, when you think about a very merry life, do you wish there was a place you could go off to versus doing most of it in your home?
I love that I have the comforts of my home, but I wish I had an office. I wish I had a designated space where I could etch out time and go sit down there and figure it out. But at the same time, if I were to do it, it would not help me one bit because the very merry life is so sporadic.
Item on your desk or in your workspace that you can't live without?
My phone,
Mm.
which is sad. I can live
Yeah.
without it. But right now, no, I got a lot of my whole world essentially is in that thing.
That's your whole second job too.
I know.
What word drives you nuts?
Stupid.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Mhm. I got a lot of them, but stupid comes to mind. It's cheap and it's rude.
What actor would you have play you in a movie?
Cameron Diaz.
What job outside of the home best prepped you for what you're doing today?
All of them, because I jumped around so much, worked in project management, and that taught me some time management and such. I don't always apply it, but that, or I worked as a personal trainer and I needed to get my ass in shape so I could chase my crazy children and learn how to cook food. All of them prep me in some sort of way of just getting to this position and getting a little bit more open.
I'd like you to label 3 of your jobs. Which one did you love? Which one was like infatuation? And which one you're like hard pass, not doing it again?
All right. So my 3 jobs. So one would be mom. The second would be the very merry life. What's my third job? I'm going to set very merry life. I'm going to split very merry life into there's the influencer portion. I'll split that aside. The collaborations and things like that, brand stuff, whatever. And then the very merry life, just my everyday of showing up, the unbranded stuff, brand deals. I love it. It's my bread and butter, but it's a pain in the ass to have to do something for someone else. And that's when it feels like work to me, because I really enjoy what I do. But when I feel like I have to report to someone else or stay on their calendar, it's crap. Also, a lot of people suck and companies suck, and some of them are incredibly dishonest. And you have to really know how to weed them out, and you can't get tripped up by the money, because some will offer you big bucks, but you got to think about your heart and all that. Because
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a big portion. I don't want to do away with it because it's the thing that subsidizes everything else, but I hate it. That would be my kill. I love my family, so they're number one. And the very merry life, that's my thing that brings joy to me. That's the thing that like fills my cup. My family is everything, but the very merry life is mine.
So the very merry life would be infatuation. You want to marry your family.
Yeah, that sounds better. Let's go with that one.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Mary. It was such a pleasure to speak with you, and so great to get a take on you as a stay-at-home parent, and also you, someone who has also got a side hustle, but I don't know that I'd call it a side hustle. I think you have 2 full-time, fully committed jobs. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and for being raw and for helping normalize that effing up is a phase in time and success is not a checkbox. It's a continued effort toward achievement. So thank you so much.
Totally. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Effing Up. I'm your host, Deanne Reinard. If you enjoyed today's episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe on the platform you use to listen to podcasts. Share Effing Up with others, post about it on social media, and or leave a rating and review. Until next time, count your perceived failures as part of your path to success. After all, we're all effing up.